Alright, y'all, so we were approaching the deadline of Giannis signing his extension, and this morning it was officially announced that he has signed it, and that means that for the next 6 years, at least on contract, Giannis is supposedly going to be staying in Milwaukee rather than testing for agency next season. And this is a big win for small market teams in general because it shows precedent that if you do enough work, I don't want to say good work, but if you do enough work, as Milwaukee did, it shows precedent that these small market teams can maintain superstars and keep them from joining the high profile teams like the Lakers, the Celtics, the Knicks, teams like that. So Milwaukee fans can rejoice as Giannis has officially signed the largest contract in NBA history. Much earned. Giannis still has a lot to prove, and hopefully he will be proving it sometime soon. And before I get into analyzing what this exactly means for Milwaukee, I just want to throw it out there. I was a little bit disappointed as an NBA fan. I can't lie. My top team that I want to see Giannis on for next season was the Toronto Raptors. I think he could have slid in there. Great organization. He could be the number one guy straight from day one. Surround him with talent like OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam. The Raptors are making the cap space for it. They could easily get some more additions. They just recently won a championship with Kawhi as their number one, so they're definitely a destination that wouldn't be disregarded by other NBA players. Not to mention Nick Nurse probably could have absolutely destroyed the NBA with a Giannis Antetokounmpo level player, and I think it would be really fun to watch. But Giannis is signed, he's staying, and I guess this will be entertaining too. After years of keeping the same roster over and over again and expecting a different result and just hoping that Giannis could power through every brigade that Milwaukee run into in the playoffs, they finally decided that they're going to get serious about keeping Giannis, and they made some big moves this offseason. If you actually look back and compare the two rosters, only 5 of their top 13 minute getters per game from last season are back on the team this season. And DJ Wilson wasn't one of those guys, but he also is coming back this season. Just throw that in there. But I like this roster, this season's roster, a whole lot better than last season's roster. While obviously last year's team wasn't bad, they were a number one seed that, almost made it to the conference. I don't want to say almost made it to the conference finals, but they were a number one seed projected to make it to the NBA finals. Obviously things went awry, but I think this year's team is just a lot better fitting around Giannis and will give the Bucks many more options offensively to attack teams and not have to deal with as many matchup issues like what Miami did to them last season in the playoffs. Just for a quick recap, this offseason, the Bucks lost guys like Eric Bledsoe, Wesley Matthews, George Hill, Marvin Williams, Robin Lopez, Kyle Korver, Ersan Ilyasova, and Sterling Brown. But they also added guys like Drew Holiday, DJ Augustine, Bryn Forbes, Bobby Portis, Torrey Craig. And essentially, while their starting lineup might have gotten a bit worse overall, I think their bench got a lot of upgrades, and we know how much Mike Budenholzer loves his bench. And overall, the loss in talent in the starting lineup probably won't be a huge factor considering you now have 3 all-star level or better players in Drew Holiday, Giannis, and Chris Middleton. To be honest, the only player I was really upset with the Bucks letting go this offseason was George Hill, and that was because he was just a great spot-up shooter. He led the league in three-point shooting percentage throughout the entire season last year, and just overall, he could provide them with some simple playmaking as the bench point guard, but also if he played in lineups with Giannis or Middleton, he was just, like I said, a great spot-up shooting threat who would hit at the best rate in the league. Outside of that, Bledsoe and his contract were holding them back in the playoffs. Wesley Matthews was a great 3-and-D player and will be used very well by the LA Lakers, but there's just other players in the league that could probably give you similar production to what Wesley Matthews was doing, and it won't hurt a whole lot, at least it won't hurt as much as some other players could if they were to depart. And then looking at the other players, Marvin Williams was a buyout for them and he was just getting up there in age. Robin Lopez is fine, but any bench center could really fill his role. And then Korver, Ilyasova, Brown, they were all end of rotation guys who didn't necessarily mean a whole lot to the Bucks in the playoffs, which is what the Bucks' primary focus was this offseason. Then looking at their additions, obviously Drew Holiday is an all-star level player, all defensive team level player as well. He can just be the Swiss Army knife and the third option behind Giannis and Middleton. There will be nights where Drew Holiday can go out and score 30. He can go out and get you 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 5 steals. He can go lock up the best guard on the other team. There's just so many things that Drew Holiday can bring to this team just in general, that will make him a perfect third option to Giannis and Middleton. And then in looking at the revamped bench, I really love the DJ Augustin addition because, I mean, we've seen him on the Magic the past few seasons. He really shows up in the playoffs, even if it is still just DJ Augustin. He does provide some elevated play. He's also just a great bench point guard. He's been the starting point guard in Orlando and was the only playmaker out there for quite a while. So, he might have a smaller role, but it's on a team that could actually use his abilities to go out and win a championship. I like the DJ Augustin addition. Going off of that, Bryn Forbes is another guy who is just on a lowly Spurs team who can come in and just be sort of a Swiss Army knife type off the bench. He can give you some buckets, he can play some defense, he can play make a little bit. Also like that addition. From there, I can see Torrey Craig and DJ Wilson splitting that time at the forward spots. And I mean, both those guys are just probably going to be end of rotation plug-in guys. And in the end, they probably won't matter a whole lot, but they do have a role that they need to perform and play in to help them win. And honestly, I think my favorite signing for the Bucks this offseason was Bobby Portis because I hated his decision to go to New York and play for the Knicks for, I believe it was a year or two. I just never understood it from the start. Thankfully, they did not bring him back and allowed him to enter free agency, and the Bucks picked him up. And I've been putting together the stats to make a video on some role players who've been playing well in the preseason so far. And Bobby Portis definitely will be on that list because he has been a great bench scorer. He's been everything I've hoped he could be on a contending team. Just being able to be a guy that can be relied on to score off the bench at a big position is going to be something that is going to be very useful to the Bucks as the season goes on and in the postseason especially. And then as for the other rotation guys filling out, they held on to Dante DiVincenzo and Pat Connaughton, and they'll probably just be swapping starting time and just bench minutes at that guard wing spots. And I mean, they're fine players. They'll help fill out their rotation. Not necessarily going to be relied on too much, but they're going to be playing their role, and I mean, they're fine players. But obviously, Giannis signed a 5-year extension, meaning he's going to be in Milwaukee for the next 6 seasons, so I want to take a brief look ahead at the years to come as well. So next season, all of Jrue Holiday, Bobby Portis, and Bryn Forbes will have player options, and I mean, at the end of the day, as long as this Bucks team isn't a total disaster this season, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't re-sign to a potential contender and have a chance at winning a championship, and they're all going to be paid, a decent amount. Jrue Holiday is going to be making like $27 million. Both Portis and Craig will be on some smaller deals, but again, they're going to have a chance to play for a championship, and as long as the team doesn't blow up, like I said, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't want to come back. Outside of that, DJ Wilson and Torrey Craig will be free agents, but even if they lose those guys, it won't be a huge detriment to the team. They can still go out and sign other players that could fill their roles just the same. And then when looking at the year beyond that, obviously at that point, Giannis will be on contract for at least another 4 years. You'll have Middleton, who has 1 more year left, and then a player option after that. So they're key cornerstone pieces they have on the books for quite a few years now, and obviously they're going to have the potential to build around that. Which leads me to my final point, that if the Bucks want to be serious about winning a championship, this front office is just going to have to continue to keep progressing this team and making it better and meeting Giannis' requirements for why he ended up signing this extension. Overall, they've bought themselves a few more years to build a winning team, and I mean, they've made plenty of mistakes in the past. The Bledsoe contract wasn't good. Not keeping Malcolm Brogdon was also not good. And there's the whole Bogdanovich fiasco this offseason, and just a lot of just stupid mistakes from this Bucks front office that almost led to them becoming another NBA team that was destined for purgatory. But luckily for them, Giannis felt that he was comfortable enough to re-sign a big deal. And now that the pen has officially met the paper, it's time for the Bucks front office to get their stuff together. They're on the right track now. They have their 2 cornerstone pieces. They have a third in Jrue Holiday for at least the next 2 seasons, I'd say. And, I mean, unless Giannis just really isn't a playoff player and can't perform deep into the postseason, I see no reason why they can't continue to be a contender as long as Giannis is on the team. Obviously, they're going to have to build around that. And that's just where I have my worries about the Bucks. Just due to the fact that they've made so many errors in the past. Hopefully this offseason was a bit of a wake-up call for them that they could easily lose it all in just a few days. But again, Giannis re-signed. I would have rather seen him in Toronto or maybe even a few other places over Milwaukee. But now that he is officially in Milwaukee, I am excited to see what exactly this team can bring to the table. Like I said, I think this year's team is a lot better than last year's team. Might even be the best version of this Bucks team that we've seen since they've acquired Giannis. We'll have to wait and see what actually unfolds and happens, but I know I'll be enjoying it along the way. And with that being said, that is it for this video. Drop your comments down below on what you think about the Giannis extension signing. Outside of that, leave a like if you enjoy this video or enjoy this type of content. And other than that, as always, most importantly, thank you for watching.